Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Huddle. I'm your host, Nic Sanker. Today, I got a really special guest, someone that I've been really looking forward to having on here and talking with. Princeton legend in athletics who's come back to lead us to greatness again, our current athletic director, John Mack. Thank you for coming on the show, John.
Thank you for having me. I don't know if I qualify as a legend. Actually, I'm sure I don't qualify, but I'm happy to be here nonetheless.
He definitely is, but he's been a pillar of what success looks like for Princeton and the Princeton community, and success has really been one of the big themes that we talk about on this podcast today, what it looks like, and obviously what it takes to get there. And today I really wanted to jump and talk about it in your story. And I think that we were talking about this before, and a lot of media really kind of divides the nation and doesn't really want to hear people's stories. I think is one of the biggest reasons why there is so much divide is because people get put into buckets and nobody really knows the true stories and reasons why people do what they do. So I really wanted to hear your story and kind of the things that shaped you to who you became. And so on that point, I really wanted to jump into and kind of hear about what it was like for you when you grew up. What was your family environment like? What was your education, your athletics? What was it like for you when you were growing up?
I'm happy to jump in. I always say I had a great childhood. It's one of the things that the older I get, the more I appreciate that. I grew up in a small town of about 4,000 people, 35, 40 minutes northeast of Detroit. My parents were fantastic. I am the middle of 7 kids. I have 3 older sisters and 3 younger sisters. Wow. So you can imagine what life was like growing up. Sports crazy family in a sports crazy town. My father actually grew up in the town where we grew up, and so he was a high school football legend. And from the time that I can remember sports, and not just the winning and the playing, but the experience, the life lessons that you gain were always a part of our life. When the TV was on, it was sports in some form or fashion. But also, neither of my parents went to college, and so they really pushed us in school to do as well as we can. And early on, I realized I was pretty good at both. Great high school experience. Played track, football. Loved football. I still love football. Thought about playing in college, but decided I should probably focus on staying in school. I was going to go to the University of Michigan. Committed to go there on a track scholarship because it was an hour and a half from home. State school, kind of, the big dream scholarship. And the coaches at Princeton just kept calling, saying, you got to come visit. I was so committed to going to Michigan that when I came on my visit to Princeton, I wore a University of Michigan jacket. That's how committed I was, which my coaches.
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
That's a bold move.
But I had never really considered anywhere other than Michigan just because it was a great academic school, a great athletic school. It was close to home and all the things that I wanted to. But it's one of the early lessons. My parents always pushed us to really think about more, to imagine more for ourselves than they had been able to achieve for themselves. And it's one of the lessons I'm most grateful for. And so when I got to Princeton on a visit, it really opened my eyes to the world in ways I didn't know exist. And then again, in a 48-hour campus visit, I started to see possibilities for myself that I had never really thought about. And it was very, very clear. I remember flying home thinking if that place is crazy enough to let me in, I'm going. And I don't know how I'm going to tell the track coach at Michigan I'm not coming, but if I have a chance to go to Princeton, I'm going to go. And I've never regretted it. But again, so much of it started from the foundation that my parents gave us. My father worked in a car factory for most of his adult life, for 35 years as a General Motors employee. He also pastored a church for 33 years in the town that we grew up in. And so many of those overlapping lessons of hard work, of service, of caring for others are what I rely on now in the role that I have.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Just the way that it's crazy that you had 6 siblings, all girls. My family's the opposite. We have 7 kids, 6 boys, 1 girl.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, so I have a half brother who didn't live with us, but then I was the oldest of 6 at home. and there was 5 boys, 1 girl. The girl's the second youngest, and she was surprised. My mom was so surprised when they told her she was a girl that she made them go check again. But yeah, the youngest is right now 11, and then Kendrick just turned 31. So
Yeah, no,
it's kind of crazy.
I am, and again, it's really evenly split. I am 12 years younger than my oldest sister and 12 years older than my youngest sister.
Wow.
So there's a 24-year age range between my oldest and youngest sister. And we joke that they were raised by completely different parents.
Oh my goodness.
Just because
Completely
of the age
different.
discrepancy.
Completely different.
Younger kids get away with everything.
Everything. It's actually insane. I'm the classic big brother of the family who had this very strict parents, and then the youngest now can get away with whatever they want.
Murder.
It's actually crazy.
Yeah, I still give my youngest sister a hard time about it. She's getting 35, but it's like, you just got away with everything.
Yeah. But to jump into kind of the next chapter of your life with Princeton is a very ambitious spot. A lot of very driven people who want to achieve success, whatever that looks like. And there's a lot of different ways that people have achieved success, whether it be their jobs and careers, the amount of money, the different Nobel Peace Prize or whatever it is at this school. When you came into Princeton, what did success look like for you? But also, how did Princeton change what you thought was successful by the time you were leaving?
Yeah. I think I have to start by saying I had no idea what I was getting into. And it was a good academic school. I just assumed that school would continue to be easy the way it had always been easy, that track would be easy the way it had always been easy. I never really considered what it would actually take to get here and achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. And so for me, very early on, I was confronted with the reality that class here is hard, really, really hard in ways that I realized I was not prepared for, right? When I was in high school, I did homework in front of the TV or in the cafeteria 10 minutes before class because it was easy and I could do that. And like, wait, I have to read how many pages? Or like, I had never really read a syllabus before. What is this all about, right? So it was a really uncomfortable transition. And so very quickly, kind of some of the ideas I thought about what my college experience would look like went out the window. I've told the story, and I think you may have heard me say that when I was a freshman, I was both the Ivy League champion in track and field in the 400 and on academic probation at the same time because I struggled so much. And I say that because I think so much of the story of success, both for me or for others, really involves failure in ways that people aren't comfortable talking about. And I think in order, to help, you guys, our student athletes now, or all students, we have to talk about that part of it, that what that actually looks like, and understanding that anyone's path to success is full of missteps, setbacks, mistakes, but that's a part of the journey. And those are when you take the opportunity to learn from those things. So I remember getting a D in a statistics class, and I remember my very first exam or midterm getting 29% on it. Still remember, I'm like, wait, 29 out of what? And having to learn success will look different than what I originally thought, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not still success. And I think one of the messages that I always try to share is Princeton is a place where you have to embrace your individual journey. We don't all come from the same starting standpoint. We don't all come with the same backgrounds. We don't all come with the same skill set. And so you really have to learn to embrace your journey and do the things that work best for you. And I think over the course of 4 years, I learned that I needed to ask for help, which I had never done before, or invest more time than I thought. But ultimately, when I left, I felt like I'd had a successful experience because when I left, I realized I'm just as capable as everyone else is of achieving things, that it just takes a little bit more for me to achieve that than some people, and that's okay. Yeah. And I think we have to make sure we're messaging that to students, that this is a place where your individual journey will lead to success when you embrace it.
Yeah, there's so many really powerful things that I got out of that. One, it's your own journeys. Everybody has their own journey, and far too often everybody's comparing between, especially in today's world with social media and the internet, everything's a comparison, and so everybody tries to get into certain categories. And then the second thing is the time horizon of success.
Yeah.
Because you just touched on right there, I can become X, Y, and Z. And I think that's such a powerful thing, is that people forget, that it takes time and it's not instant. In today's world, everybody expects instantly to get to where they want to be, but they don't understand the time and energy. And that success wasn't this last year of them getting all A's. It was the last 18 years of them committing themselves to getting smarter, more educated, more fit, whatever it is. And then the third part that you touched on was the willingness to fail and to ask for help. I think that it's so tough for people, especially people here, to recognize they can't do something yet.
Yeah.
And that was part of me. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. When I got here and I had to go through some of the math courses, I remember just getting, I think I got like 45s on my math exams, and I'm used to getting like A+ every exam coming in. And it was just a real humbling experience opening that first exam and thinking, I don't know how to answer any of this.
Oh, we've all been there.
And it was crazy, but it makes you better in the long run. And I think that's such a scary but necessary thing to do to become who you want, is to step outside of your comfort zone, step out of what people have traditionally said you can do, and put yourself out there. And you probably will fail sometimes.
Completely.
But you will get a whole lot better, a whole lot faster if you do that and learn from it and approach it with the right mindset.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I realized, and I will say it took me probably a year and a half to really get comfortable in my own skin academically here. Athletically, I had success almost right away, and I was very comfortable there, but the academic side took time. One of the things now, I'll be 47 in a few weeks, I have the benefit of time. Time looks very different at my age than it does at your age, right? And a lot of students here don't understand how much time you still have, right? To correct mistakes, to learn the lessons you need to learn. Things when you're in college seem so immediate that if I don't get what I need right now, then the door is closed. And when in reality, there are a million different paths to be successful. And sometimes in life you adjust. I've worked in college athletics, then I was an attorney and pastored a church, and I'm back in college athletics. And all these things combined have led me to the place where I really feel like I'm supposed to be. But all of them are paths that were filled with challenges and mistakes and needing a lot of help. Princeton, I always say, is a safe place to struggle, because you have more support and resources here than you could ever possibly need. But most importantly, you have a community here who's dedicated to your success, but you have to be willing to do your part. And it's a lesson that a lot of kids come not really being comfortable leaning into, but ultimately the ones who say, hey, here's who I am, here's what I'm struggling with. Again, academically, athletically, socially, mental health-wise, those are the kids who ultimately get the support that they need and end up being put on the path to success.
Yeah, and I think you were spot on with, like, you have way more time than you think. Everybody thinks their first job has to be the perfect job. It's such a big mistake.
I've probably had 10 jobs. I mean, I worked for 4 or 5 different law firms. I worked out of college. I worked here in the athletic department. I worked at the Big Ten Conference headquarters and then at Northwestern over the course of all those 10, 11 years. And then I quit and went to law school because it was something that I always wanted to do. Again, challenging, but really beneficial. Practicing law was a very different thing. And one of the things you learn in life is whenever you reset and take a different path, you kind of start at the bottom and you have to work your way up again, right? Even when you climb to different levels, right? When you're counting, when you hit 20, you start at 0 again, and you have to work your way back up, right? It's a different level, but you still have to climb. And I think you have to be okay putting in the work to continue climbing. College is a different version of that. You don't get to start at the same place you were in high school. You have to come here and be willing to put in the work to grind and climb and to grow. But it's one of the best parts of doing it at a place like Princeton.
Yeah, and the theme right there is just hard work. Everything takes hard work and consistent hard work over time. It's like there's no shortcut to success in this world.
It is such an unsatisfying answer to give people. People want a formula, they want a shortcut, they want a path.
They want it fast.
99% of the time, the answer to the question is hard work.
Put your head down and grind.
To show up every day, to do the work, repetitive, because some stuff you just don't learn until you've done it enough times and the light bulb clicks on, right? There is no path to getting to be successful that does not include hard work and
Yeah.
that does not include failure. Tony Bennett, who just stepped down as University of Virginia's head coach, his team a few years ago was the first #1 seed on the men's side to ever lose
I remember
to a
them.
16.
They were my team.
And one of the things I will always remember, the very next year when they won the national championship, he said, failure is a key that will unlock a door to success that you couldn't have gotten to any other way, right? And sometimes the only way to get to the success you want is to fail in trying to do it. And it's one of the lessons that I've really, really leaned on in sports and in my life. One of the things that most people don't know, and I don't even know if I share this with you guys, I applied for this job in 2014 when it was open. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't get a thank you letter for applying. I literally got no response whatsoever.
Yeah,
Right.
that's tough.
And so then 7 years later, and to be fair, if I had gotten the job back in 2014, it would have been an unmitigated disaster because I wasn't ready for it. 7 years later, I was prepared for the job and the opportunity when it presented itself.
Yeah.
But because I'd had 7 years of experience and life, success and failure, that helped get me ready for the job that I have now.
You know where I find this, like the first thing that comes to mind in this is actually right now with college sports and NIL and the way that in transfer portal and the way that athletes want to now transfer to go and play immediately and have that immediate success, thinking that's the solution, rather than staying and developing and getting better and failing, getting that second, third string and getting better over time to earn that spot. And I think that's just like right there, a basic example, illustration of one of the biggest struggles that college athletes face.
It really makes me sad when I see how many kids are transferring, because I know that they are being robbed of the opportunity to do just what you've talked about, to really experience what working through problems and challenges looks like, to get the benefit of growth and understanding, oh, right, I actually can do something. I don't need to take an alternative path. But also, when you're transferring and 2 or 3 times, you leave college without those lifelong relationships the same way. When you think about the guys that you've played with, the coaches that you've developed these relationships with, not even just on your team, but here at Princeton, one of the best things is you get a chance to know everyone on campus. I can't imagine leaving here and having not had that experience, or leaving college, in 10 or 20, 30 years from now, not being able to look back and talk to your friends about those things that happened during your college days that are such a fundamental part of being at a place like this. And so I think too many kids are seeing challenge and running away from it rather than embracing it. And I think that is, it really does not set them up for success in the long run beyond their college athletics days.
Yeah. What would you say was how did you think you handled challenges back in the day? And what was a big part of the reason why you approached it the way you did? Was it a mentor in your life? Was it maybe just even being a man of faith, thinking that it's just God putting challenges and it's all in his plan kind of thing? How did you approach those things?
Great question. And I don't even know that I necessarily had a good philosophy that I was leaning on.
Yeah. And I guess also just
then,
like how you approach it now too.
Yeah. I think back then I was a procrastinator. Again, faith played a huge part. I knew that things would eventually get done and that, God had given me the ability to tackle whatever challenges. I typically tried to wait until the last minute, which was not a great strategy. My wife sometimes refers to me as Seabiscuit. He was notorious, like really, really lazy until it was time for the race, and then he'd get up and run. And that's kind of how I was back then. Because I think for me, a lot of it was fear-based, right? I don't want to tackle the challenge because I'm still somewhat afraid of what happens if I don't succeed, what happens if it doesn't work out the way that I want to. And I think that's something that we all have to wrestle with in various areas of our life. But over time, I've grown to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And embracing challenge does not mean you're not afraid, doesn't mean you don't have doubts and concerns. It means you're going to put your best foot forward and trust that things will work out the way that they're supposed to. And I think for me, because faith has always been such a big part of my life, trust that God's plan has already set the stage for me to be successful. And so it's one of the things I lean into now. There are challenges now, and I am much more comfortable embracing them head on, but also being really, really smart about where is the help, right? I know so much more now than I did when I was younger, that there are very few challenges in life that you really have to take on by yourself. And especially when you're in college, there are resources, there are support, there are coaches, there are staff members. There are so many people who want to help that we just have to open the door for them to help. And so it is much easier at my age to be able to pick up the phone and call a friend and say, hey, here's something I'm dealing with. Or talk to one of my staff members and say, here's a challenge. Hey, let's put our heads together and think about how to attack this. Because time has given me the benefit of that. And if there's one lesson I would tell a lot of our student athletes is to lean on the help that is available. Be comfortable being vulnerable with your teammates, with your coaches, because ultimately that's what's going to be most impactful in you getting the help that you need, is when you are willing to kind of open up and share what the challenge is. And again, it could be a challenge in any number of ways, but at a place like this, there is always someone who's there to help you deal with the challenge. And so not thinking that I have to be a hero and deal with everything myself has been one of the biggest ways that I've changed in dealing with challenges in my life.
Yeah, I really like that. And it really just kind of reiterates that it takes a community, and it's not all on you. It kind of takes that pressure off your shoulders to really accomplish things.
Yeah. Because also the thing that, again, we don't always talk about is everyone in life is dealing with some variation of the same thing, right? There are almost 6,000 kids on this campus, all of whom are facing a challenge in one area or another. Some athletically, some academically in class, some are adjusting socially, some have issues at home with family, right? Like, everyone has a challenge. And the tough part is we assume because we go to class and someone has all the right answers, or we go to practice and someone is playing great, we assume that those people don't have challenges just because their challenges don't look like our challenges. But we're all having challenges. And Princeton is nearly 6,000 individuals having an individual experience together. And it's the togetherness that I think is the strength of our place, where we can kind of share with each other what we're dealing with and help each other deal with our individual challenges.
Yeah. And I think that's beyond even Princeton, something that needs to happen so much more. I think that, like I touched on earlier, it's just the media portrays this group has these challenges, this group doesn't have these challenges. And I think that this conversation alone just reflects just how much each person has their own set of challenges. And it's something that's so easily forgotten. And I think that I'm curious to hear, what do you think is like the first steps that people need to take to help fight this narrative?
I think people have to see themselves as more than one thing. It is much harder for you to fit me into a box that I refuse to fit in. Right? When I am comfortable saying I am a father, I'm a man of faith, I am a husband, I'm an alum, I'm someone who loves books, I'm someone who, to give voice to the various different parts of yourself. And I say Princeton, one of the best things about this place is it gives you 4 years to discover, who else am I? We come in with these preconceived notions about who we are. The place kind of forces you to develop other parts of your personality. And so I think the first step is owning who we are, whatever that looks like for you, like embracing fully who you are, and then allowing those parts of yourself to connect with other people, right? Who may look different, who may have different political views or religious views or whatever, but finding commonality, because in my experience, most of the people that I interact with, there's a whole world of area where we agree, right? Where we are the same.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends here, again, one's Muslim, one's pretty much agnostic, right? But we have such a shared commonality as people, and leaning into that part of other people, looking for that part of other people, as opposed to doing what we're kind of taught to do publicly, where, okay, if you believe this, then you are all of these things. Well, it's like, well, no, I can believe this, but I can also believe these two things, right?
Yeah.
And not just be everyone on that side believes all of these things and everyone on that side believes only these things. It's like, no, most of us live somewhere in the middle, and being open to finding that common ground, even when it's uncomfortable. And understanding, one of the things I always say about being on a team is it develops relationships on which you can build and have some of the more difficult conversations, right? You know, from being at practice with guys every day for 4 years, you know the areas where you agree, you know the areas where you don't agree.
Yeah.
But you can have really tough conversations and not label each other or demonize each other, because there is a relationship that supports all of that conversation.
Yep.
What happens broadly outside the realm of teams is that there are people entering into spaces having really hard conversations without a relationship to support it. Relationship has to be the foundation. And so when we're talking about building bridges, before we get into what your political ideology is, what religious, all these other things, who are you?
Yeah.
Right? Who are you as a person? What is there in you that I can connect with? And all the other stuff we can build on later.
Mm-hmm. And I this just makes me think of when the whole George Floyd everything happened. I grew up going to a predominantly white school. My dad was the headmaster there, and the local news actually, or like someone writing some kind of article, reached out and wanted to ask me. I was a senior at the time, I think.
Wow.
A question saying or ask questions about Covenant, which was where I went to school, and they're like, do you feel like Covenant supports the black community? Mind you, at the time, me and all my siblings might be like a third of the black population at the school. Yeah. Granted, we are like 6 of us at the school. But do you have a black club? Do you feel like they really are trying to help black community? And I was like, I don't want a black club. I wanted to be in the FIFA club, the football club, these things. And I think that I kind of got upset with them because I was like, I mean, MLKJ made it so simple. It should be about who you are, the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And I think that too often people just jump to, you have to be in these categories based off what you looked at. Like, and my dad was very opposed to that. I mean, it was the same thing with just even like who they hire. The school, there was a lot of pressure on him as the headmaster to really make an effort to hire black people.
Diversify, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, why should I give that person a job instead of another person who's just as qualified, if not more, just because they look different? I'm not doing that.
No. And it's one of the challenges when you're a person of color in a position of authority, that there is a greater expectation for some reason that you should be looking to diversify your staff as opposed to someone who's white, who in reality should have the same expectation if diversification is what we want. And so, it is much easier to just look at someone and assume than to do the work of actually getting to know them. And in my experience, when I was here as a student athlete, there are times where I felt more closely aligned with my teammates who were white than my non-athlete friends who were black. And then there were other times where I felt more closely aligned with my friends who were black but not athletes than I did with my teammates, right? Because no one is just one thing. Yeah. And we have to allow each other to be all of the things that we are without feeling threatened by them, or without feeling that, that I have to or have a right to judge you based on what you are, but give people the freedom to be who they are, but also still work to find that commonality and common ground.
Yeah, it's so tricky to just like figure out who you are when everybody wants to put you in different labels. I know one of the things that was tough for me for a while growing up being that way institution was when I was around black friends, they would say, "You're not black."
Not black. Yep.
You're not black. And I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And, you talk like a white person.
Oh, yeah. No,
what does that mean? What are you saying by that? Are you saying black people can't talk educated? Black people can't do these different things? And I think that challenge is something that is really tough on people. And one thing I definitely have taken away from my dad is he's really challenged you to say what does it mean to be black, to be all these different things. And like you said, this is what I this is really powerful what you said. Just like you're more than just one thing. And I think that's so powerful and so forgotten is that you're more than black. You're a husband. You're a man of faith. You're a great athlete. You're all these different things, and you have to remember that.
Yeah, and to remember that when someone is trying to put you in a box, it's a reflection on them, not a reflection on you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it is easy to internalize other people's perspectives and opinions in the world of social media and so much outside influence that you have to fight to remember sometimes who you are. As a person and your values, but it is so important so that when people do try to fit you into a box, you have the strength to say, no, that's not. Am I those things? Yes, but I am also all of these other things that don't fit inside your box.
Yeah,
and it is a lesson that I think, again, the benefit of time gives you, because the reality is for a lot of kids, again, on college campus, you're 18 to 22, and you're still trying to figure out who you are. And that's okay too. It always bothers me when we ask high school kids, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Right? Like,
you don't know. You're still so young.
I don't get to make too many decisions for myself. How am I supposed to know what I want to do for the next 50 years?
Yeah.
Right? I think that is a big part of a place like this, is giving students the freedom to learn who they are. And I think that's a process that I'm still learning in ways at almost 47 years old. But that's also what makes life fun, right? To discover. Like, my wife over the last year has found a love of art, which she didn't have, right? Like, that's the beauty of life in a place like Princeton, because it sets you up intellectually to continue to explore, to continue to think, to continue to grow in ways that allow you to continue to evolve who you are. And so, when you knew me in college, I might have fit into this box, but now I'm over here in a completely different area. And both of those things are true, and both of those things are okay.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. Just this place does just like help you explore all the different boxes that you can be in, or like all the different areas that you can be. I mean, it allows you to be much more than one thing, and that's such a powerful thing. It's always, and I think what makes this touchy topic is that a lot of times people forget that they can be so much more, and it's easy to just say, well, it's because I'm this way. Yeah. That's the reason. And I know my dad growing up, one of the biggest things, he's like, there's really no excuse. Don't make any kind of, you can't be a victim. And he grew up actually probably the opposite of you, an only child, and had a very tough upbringing, very, very tough upbringing in inner city DC with an abusive dad, so on and so forth. His dad never went to a single one of his games. And they actually got evicted out of their house. And so, but he had the one coach, and I've mentioned this in the previous podcast, of just Coach Jackson told him, you can't feel bad for yourself. And you have to kind of shed a tear and move on. Yeah. But I think too often so many people put into that what it means to be black is you're a victim. Yeah. And I think that is one of the most dangerous things to be having into your box. Yeah. No. It's such a tricky thing. And you have to recognize that there is history, but I do think that putting that victim label, no matter what category you can be, black, white, Hispanic, whatever you are, if you're a victim, life's going to be hard. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is life's going to be hard in ways no matter what.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
My wife, she's a physician, and one of the things she always says is she has a conversation with a lot of patients about losing weight. Mm-hmm. It's like, losing weight, it's so hard, and eating right, it's so hard. And she's like, you know what else is hard? Dying early. Or being overweight and unhealthy, or not being able to be active with your family. Yeah. Choose your hard. Yeah. It's going to be hard one way or another. Choose your hard. One path leads you to the kind of life that you want.
That's such a good message.
One path doesn't.
That's such
you
a good
get
message.
to choose, regardless of other influences, regardless of other expectations. You get to choose your hard. And I think that is the mentality that more people should take, and more people should be open to being in a place where people challenge your view of yourself, right? Where people are pushing you to be more than what you see in yourself, and not let you accept giving less than your best effort. It's one of the reasons I love working with our coaches here, because our coaches are people who are willing to set a standard on the field, off the field, and constantly push students to becoming more than students ever thought that they could be. And it's when it happens, it's an amazing, amazing thing to see.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's the message that Princeton just sends, is that you have so much more that you can be. And like, you have so much potential. And that's the thing that I hate more than anything else, is just like wasted potential. Because I always see all the time so many people that have so much potential, so much to give, so many opportunities, and it's just wasted. And that's one of the things I can't stand more than anything else. And it's tough to see, but it's how can we continue to support one another, and love on one another, regardless of whatever, but also challenge each other, because I think tough love is one of the best loves. I mean, whenever growing up, we would have some kind of issue. Me and my brother, we would go into a small school. Athletics really weren't the greatest. We actually, my junior and senior year, we played 8-man football because we had 19 kids on our team. And we were complaining, we want to go to different school, we want to go do these things. But the message was, well, you're here, so make the most of where you are, figure it out.
Yeah. And
that is such a powerful message, to just figure out and make the most of where you are. Because like you said, life's going to be hard regardless of where you are. And you can either complain about it or try to do something about it, and try to make the most of where you are. And that's one of the biggest messages or lessons that I've always had. I think that it's so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, so much of it is about mindset that you bring to any situation, any set of challenges. One of the things that we very rarely talk about, and you talked about kind of like wasted potential, is there are a lot of people who are afraid to succeed. Right? We talk so much about fear of failure. We don't talk much about, what about fear of success? What happens if I put in all the work and I'm really successful, and now people expect me to be able to do that every day? That's a completely different kind of fear that is very real, especially at a place like this. And many times it's easier to fade into the background. It's easier to not put myself out there, because I know I can do it one time, but can I do it every day? Can I let my team count on me every game? Or maybe I just make a play here and there sometime throughout the season. That's just as powerful sometimes as the fear of failure, right? And so one of the things that I really enjoy about my job is trying to help coaches think about, how do we help all of our students who come with different issues and challenges, different perspectives that are really kind of tied together, and ultimately help them see themselves in a way that lets them pursue success for themselves, for their teams, for their family, in a way that they really feel proud of.
Well, I guess to kind of wrap things up, we've talked about success in a lot of different areas. What does success look like to you? What are some of the things that you really value and really would encourage, especially for your kids, to really consider when trying to, I guess, pursue success in their lives?
Yeah. I think it's a number of things. And again, you could frame these as success, and they fit in a number of different areas. I think service is a huge part of it, right? Growing up with a father who was a pastor of a church in a small town, I got to see what real service to other people looked like. Never made a ton of money, didn't go to college, but his life was successful beyond measure because of his willingness to serve and love other people. And I think if there's one thing the world could use, the country could use, it is people who are dedicated to serve others more than themselves. I think growth is an incredible part of success. What you're able to do as a first year here, what you're able to do as a sophomore, a junior, a senior, most people, their capacity will grow as their time and experience grows. And so understanding that success in year 2, I may score the same amount of points I scored as a first year, or I may play more minutes or not. There are different measures of success based on what you're growing to. And I think we have to be okay letting people grow into being successful. I think the last thing is honesty, right? One of the things that I hear so often from parents and friends who have kids who are being recruited, and They set their heart on one particular school. I want to play for this coach in this sport at this school. And it's like, you may not be academically qualified. You may not be athletically qualified. You may have a whole other range of issues or challenges or obstacles, but you can be successful at a number of different places. And part of that is when you're honest about who you are, about what you're willing to do. There are some kids who could play at the Division I level, but don't want to put in the all year round work, right? Be honest so you can go somewhere that is suited and that is an environment that will let you maximize the most of who you are and what you want out of the experience. And so I think when you are honest with yourself, honest with others, you set yourself up to be successful in the short term and the long term.
That's really powerful. And that reminds me of when I talked with Mike Sanker. He said just like awareness, like really like understanding yourself is one of the biggest things. And I think that's spot on, to understand who you are at its core. And that takes time, and it takes also time to reflect and really talk either with yourself and with others, I think, too. Which is why I love doing stuff like this.
This is fantastic.
Talk with other people.
Yeah, and you do a
fantastic
job at it.
I could talk with you all day.
You know where my office is, man. Come by anytime.
I'm gonna have to make sure to do that because this was a really good time to hear a lot of. There's just so much wisdom in what you have to say, and that's why it's important to take time to have these conversations and to have the hard ones too. That's where I think you learn the most is talking about the things that you don't usually take the time to talk about, and you never know how much time you have to talk about it. So it's important to do so. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and to share this wisdom with everybody else out there. So Princeton's lucky to have you.
No, I'm a product institution, and I'm privileged to get to do what I do every day and work with student athletes like you. So thanks for having me.